Good morning, Mark. And a very interesting question this morning. Do I need a financial planner in my 30s?
Yeah, Ben, I think it's a super relevant question, and often people tend to think I'll go and see a financial planner once I've got some money that I need them to help me manage or invest or do things with. But I think the value that a professional lifestyle financial planner can add to somebody in their 30s is immense. And it may not be around product or investment, but more about helping these people navigate the specific life transitions that they're faced with in this age bracket.
Hello and welcome to Real Financial Planning with Ben and Mark, two lifestyle financial planners who are passionate about helping people understand their money and what it can do for them.
You mentioned transitions there, and I think you probably go through some of your biggest life transitions in your 30s. Things like getting married, buying your first home, having your first child, or maybe even in a change of career. This is not something that you take lightly, and it's probably something that you probably would need the most advice around, but we don't tend to seek advice for some reason.
Yeah, I think it's that misconception, and it's almost like you said, these are some really big decisions that you're faced with. So to work with a planner to help you navigate them is massively important. If we look at getting married, for example, you're taking two individuals and you're making them one from a family perspective, but also from a financial perspective. Each partner manages money differently. They spend money differently. They save money differently. And now you're trying to merge those two. And it's not just going to seamlessly come together. You need to sit down and have these open conversations, and often do that prior to actually getting married. Right? Not just say you're not going to get married based on the outcome of the conversation, but just giving yourself the best sort of head start going into your marriage.
No, exactly. And the important thing is, I think people don't tend to talk about money generally, anyways. And I don't know about you, but when I talk to my wife about money, when it's just the two of you, it can become, let's just say, it's a robust conversation. But if you have a third person that can help to facilitate these questions, that will maybe make you ponder about different things and some different ideas and help a resolution, it has massive value to you and to your fiance on how you can work a way forward. And as you said, it's so important to understand that fully before you actually get married.
Yeah, but I think the advisor creates a safe space for these conversations to be had. So, two partners can come together and they can discuss these things openly with an objective view from the planner. Not telling them what to do, but hearing each one out and just maybe bouncing things back and forth, trying to make a single income household into a dual income household, so that everybody is on the same page and wins. If we look at the transition of purchasing your first home, Ben, what sort of value does a lifestyle financial planner bring in that conversation?
I think again, it's somebody to just bounce some ideas over. And if you've been working with your financial planner for a while, then they can have some good insights, because maybe you're thinking about moving in a year or two, and they can question, is it a good idea to be buying right now? Should we maybe buy somewhere else? What is happening in your life? They understand and know these things. I think also it can also add value with a bit of education. So knowing that there's transfer costs, that there's these other costs that you might not be aware of, and just helping you to look at that. And if you're still wanting to go forward, then putting that all together and then saying, cool, this is what you want to do. This is how much we're going to need. And let's work towards a savings plan to maybe come up with that deposit, to come up with those transfer costs, the lawyer's costs, and all of those things. So you're not getting over indebted with surprise costs.
Yeah, but I think that last bit makes the most sense to me, and in that buying a home is one thing, but there's a whole bunch of costs that come with it, right? And potentially monthly cash outflows that you haven't accounted for. Right? So if you're going to buy a house, you probably need a deposit. Right? Deposit doesn't come out of thin air. You need a plan to accumulate that deposit, whatever that looks like. And then accounting for, like you said, transfer duties. But then once you've made this purchase, there's going to be an increase in expenditure, rates and taxes, levies, electricity, water. All of these things typically go up in value the bigger the property, right? So you need to understand the cost, understand what you're getting into, and budget and plan accordingly.
Yeah. So a prolonged view of how these things are going to work out will be huge value. And if we move on to the next one, I don't think anyone can quite prepare you for this, but your first child, what value does a financial planner bring there, Mark?
Yeah, sure, Ben. I think, like you say, nobody can prepare you for the experience of having your first child and taking that child home. But I think from a planning perspective, we can add a lot of value into what you should expect financially. Right? Everyone always jokes kids aren't cheap, they're expensive. But it's the truth, right? Because it's literally a lifelong commitment to look after this little person. And financially, there are stages. In the beginning, there are big one-off expenses. The birth, the hospital, kitting out the bedroom, all of those things which are lump sum expenses. So you need a plan. How are we going to do that? And then there's regular monthly expenses. There's nappies, there's formula, there's clothing. All of these things don't just happen. And if you haven't budgeted accordingly, you're going to find yourself coming up short every month. So having these conversations with your partner, with your financial planner, to make sure that the income in the household can cater for these things.
Mm-hmm. And if we move on to the last one, the changing career, again, I think this is a massive, that's a massive transition, changing your career. This will affect sort of the rest of your life. And so what could happen there? Obviously, depending how you're changing your career, maybe there's going to be some disruption to your cash flow. Maybe you have to start off at a lower income before you can get higher up in there. Maybe you need to study. Can you study for that new career while you're working and part-time? Or do you have to maybe take a year off to study this, or 2 years off? And so a financial planner can help you to save up, and we can work out what is that cost to have 2 years off. 2 years of no working, all the expenses paid for. We need to calculate that, come up with a plan to make sure that you can achieve that. And then again, taking that step back and then seeing the trajectory going forward of what your career expectations and your income could be, and planning that out to say, yes, you may have, figure of speech, taking one step back now, but look at the 5 steps forwards you'll be taking, in year 3 or year 5, year 7, for example, with the trajectory, and you can see your life planned out in front of you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that we do is pretty practical from a numbers perspective, working out things, planning. Yeah, but I think your career, the amount of time you spend in your job, it's like 80% of your day is spent at work. So work needs to fulfill you, and it also it's a means to an end, right? So it's got to provide you with some form of income. So having conversations with your planner about saying, this is the life I want to live, but this is the job I'm doing. Are those two things aligned? Is your job allowing for the life you want to live from an income perspective, from a time perspective? And if not, discussing, are you going to make a change? And is that change out of the corporate world into a business owner's world, an entrepreneurial world? Or is it saying, look, I need to be on this sort of income trajectory over the next 5 years, and this is the best way to get there? So it's really, these are tough decisions to have to make by yourself, let alone to make with your spouse, because the implications are huge. Like you said, taking a step back potentially means that there's less income in the household for the next 12 or 18 months, but knowing that in the next 24 to 36 months there's going to be a lot more than there ever was. I think providing that space for clients to have that conversation, us sharing our knowledge and expertise on that, gets the couple and gets them on the same page in order to make these transitions that they're experiencing.
Yeah. So in summary, I guess you're never too young, and regardless of how much or how little money you have, if you're going through life and you got life transitions, a financial planner would be a great sounding board to help you through these transitions, and just be an ear and offer some practical advice on how to move forward.